The main X Division feud this month is for the X Division title, Styles, Daniels, Joe in Ultimate X.
Ooh.
So first impact of the pay-per-view cycle, JB has Joe and Larry in his office. Larry with some tremendous shirts this month. Looks like he walked straight in from golfing to do his TNA managing.
Which he probably has.
He probably did, yeah. Larry has a major announcement. TNA management is very proud of Joe's achievements. However, he's never been in an Ultimate X match. So Larry books that for Destination X. It is Styles, Daniels, Joe in Ultimate X to decide their feud for good. Joe's mad at him being underestimated because he's like, you don't think I can do that. You think I can't succeed in Ultimate X. And he's like, I don't like you playing stunts like this. They call you Living Legend, right? We might just be calling you Legend from now on.
Because Joe is going to kill him.
He is going to commit a murder on Larry Zbyszko.
That's the chant.
Right after that match, Daniels faces Austin Aries. As Austin Aries is making his entrance, he looks right down the camera and says, "Sexy time, baby." Daniels is about to go for the Angel's Wings, and he says, no, instead I'm going to go for the Coquina Clutch, which causes Joe to run out.
I was so pissed because I was like, fuck yeah, Daniels Aries.
They get no time as well.
I was like, I was excited. I wanted to see Daniels and Aries.
It's not even like they work a nice little 7-minute match and then Joe does the run-in. Like, they go to that finish in like 90 seconds.
Yeah.
Daniels goes to BME Joe, but Joe places the X Division title on his chest, which blocks the BME because Daniels lands on it and hurts himself.
Yes.
So is it the case that if the belt is face down on Joe's chest, it would hurt Joe? But because it was face up, it hurts Daniels?
Yes, but as we know, Liam Laura's my backyard finish was to have it face up so I would feel it.
What?
I've talked about this on the podcast before.
Have you?
Yes, when I used to do my trampoline fed, right? My finish was the frog splash.
Yeah.
But I would drag both belts on top of the pillow at the time, was a child, and I would face the two belts up so I could feel them more, so it would feel like a big move.
You're like a regular Rob Van Dam?
Yeah.
So you do like the big come up selling the ribs?
Yeah, I would do the flip over.
Good stuff. Joe then looks the muscle buster Daniels onto a chair, but AJ makes the save and nails Joe right in the skull with a chair, like right in the skull with a chair. It's amazing how like we don't do that anymore. But back in 2006, well actually sometimes we do. We went through a period of not doing that anymore, and then we have come back into doing it a little more often. That man hit that man right in the skull with the chair.
I like hitting people in the skulls with chairs.
Well,
It's not my body.
you don't have to deal with the concussion. You're not wrong. Styles looks at Daniels and says, "This wasn't for you," throws the chair down and stands tall with the X Division title. We also get a feature immediately after that about Ultimate X, all the high spots, all the history of the match. They have had enough Ultimate X's at this point that they can put together a pretty good Ultimate X feature. They're like, ooh, look at all our cool moves. February 25th Impact, AJ Styles faces Roderick Strong.
Roderick Strong and AJ Styles, they see it on paper, you're like, ooh.
And at least, unlike the Daniels
They
Aries
got
match,
some time.
yeah, they got a little bit of time. They got to have a real match. They're not going out there and having like a 4-star match, but they're having like a tidy little 6-minute TV match.
It's not quite the, like, I'm working to get you a job pace either.
No. Daniels on commentary points out that the last time he and AJ were in Ultimate X together, Daniels took the X Division title from him.
You could do this again.
He then started talking about how he has a special training technique for Ultimate X, which I did not see in the match itself. He's like, you'll have to wait till Destination X to see what it is, and I guess we'll never know.
Well, he said he used it to win last time, and he's going to use it to win this.
And he did win both times, so whatever he did, it worked. In a lovely little spot, AJ was going for a sunset flip, and Strong just sidestepped him and then caught him in a backbreaker. Like, Styles just landed back first on his knee. It's like, that's so cool. Styles popped Strong into a powerbomb, followed with the Styles Clash for the win. And that's the first time I noted that got a replay, but it was not the Morphoplex move of the night. Joe beat Shark Boy later on that show. Don informs us that the X Division is not defined by weight limits, Liam. Have you heard this? It's defined by no limits.
What? Since when?
It's a new concept they're trying to do in this 2006 X Division.
I like it. They should emphasize.
Nice little competitive squash. I like the way Shark Boy like tapped out in the Coquina Clutch because it did look like he was actually being choked out.
Yeah.
There was like a super labored, like I'm on the verge of passing out kind of tapping out thing he did that looked really good. Main event of the March 4th Impact. Samoa Joe and Shannon Moore faced AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels.
Joe and Punk versus Daniels and Styles.
That is what the graphic said before this match. The funny thing is, earlier on the show, there was a graphic that said Joe and Prince of Punk. And then right before this match, they're like, let's shorten it. It's Joe and Punk versus AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels.
That'll get the dirt sheets
But a perfectly fine match. The interesting part of this is that the Ultimate X structure was up for this match so that they could preview it, I guess. You could look at it and be like, look, it's Ultimate X. So Joe looked like ominously at the Ultimate X structure as he was doing his entrance. They mentioned that Joe was on the cover of the new Pro Wrestling Illustrated, which TNA put it over as a great color cover shot of Samoa Joe. Mike TNA is such an old man that he is putting over the color photography on this month's Pro Wrestling Illustrated.
Hey, it's still impressive, alright?
Joe blind tags himself in as Daniels is going for the Angel's wings and then just wins with a lariat. Like a single lariat beats Daniels. It's a good looking lariat, to be fair. It's Samoa Joe, but he does just win with a lariat.
Hey, sometimes you just gotta win with a really great lariat.
Styles then takes Joe's X Division title, hangs it from the cables, and then Styles and Daniels are just standing in the ring together being like, go get it. Go get it. It's right there. You can go get it.
And he's like, I can't. And they're like, why?
Which is like it's a fun hook for like Ultimate X because like obviously Joe is out of place in that match and that's the story.
Why is he out of place, Garrett?
Because he is large. There's a word
What's
for
Scott
it.
Steiner say about him?
We won't know for another 3 years. Actually, no, we will. They feud in Slammiversary, and he doesn't quite go he's fat, but he does do multiple promos about how he is in much better shape than Samoa Joe.
Good bits.
TNA wants to retain Shannon Moore, but won't begrudge if he leaves because WWE offer him a better deal. If he signs with WWE, he's leaving on good terms, having jobbed on the way out. Has he? One TNA veteran, though, predicts he'll be promised the world just like Matt Hardy was, just to get him to sign. Then he'll be as frustrated as he was the last time and miserable there like everybody else.
Sounds pretty accurate in 2024.
Jonah Rock's not at all tweeting through that at the moment.
Listen, have the faith in oneself, but come on.
Also, I would have heat with Shannon Moore if he left, personally.
Why?
Because, like, he hasn't jobbed on the way out. Like, he didn't get pinned here. He was on the winning side of this tag. There was the 8-man tag he was in on the go-home show where David Young got pinned. He got to pin AJ Styles and he won on the pre-show. He hasn't jobbed on the way out. If anything, he's been overly protected for a dude who might be immediately leaving. Go Home Show had a little feature with new comments from Styles, Daniels, and Joe, where the Styles was like sitting on top of the Ultimate X, and Joe was like standing on the truss. Made for some cool visuals. Story driving home is Styles being like, "This is my match. This is Ultimate X. This is our environment, and you're stepping into our world here. So you might." And Daniels does like a promo on, I think it's the pay-per-view, where he's like, or maybe it's AJ here, where it's like, you were good in the ring, you are good outside the ring, but this match takes place above the ring, and that is not your domain. That is ours.
That's a good line.
Yeah.
It gives him a good out. Too.
Yeah, like that. Like that's the whole idea. There is some like criticism. It's like, why would you put Joe in Ultimate X? It's not his strong point. It's like, that's the story, you idiots.
Yeah, and also like, I don't know. You think you're gonna have him for a long time, you know? You know, like, you're allowed to do some... It doesn't need to be a straight singles match every month.
So that brings us to the pay-per-view where JB, before the Ultimate X, has Samoa Joe, and he goes to compare Joe's streak to Bill Goldberg, which Joe abruptly cuts off and says, it's not about who's next, but who's left.
Good line.
Yeah.
Also acknowledging, Goldberg on TV now.
They're even at the point of like actively name dropping Goldberg and teasing him specifically for a match with Joe, which is probably what you would do. The idea of like unbeaten streak versus guy who famously had unbeaten streak.
But it's like, you're gonna have him beat Joe.
Well, they brought in Kurt and had him beat Joe. It's the same thing, really.
Yeah, but Kurt's good.
You one of those people who doesn't pretend that Bill Goldberg's the best wrestler to ever exist?
I mean, I've seen about 40, and they were all WWE.
Oh no, you've seen the worst of them then. But actually no, some of the modern ones are really, like the Lesnar match at WrestleMania is really
they're fun. Yeah, the Lesnar one's amazing.
Goldberg for me is a person that people have overcorrected on, where the consensus opinion used to be that he was bad, which is wrong, and now the consensus opinion that he is great, which is also a bit wrong, and he lies somewhere in the middle.
He's a vibes guy.
Yeah, in the right environment, he can be amazing and the best. But like the idea that he's like this great pro wrestler is just not true.
Is he an Observer Hall of Famer, Garrett? I know you hate the Observer Hall of Fame, but is he a Hall of
I don't care. I
just fucking participate.
Even you qualifying that as like, I know you hate it, my still instinctive reaction is like, I don't care.
Participate.
I'm gonna say yes, sure, give it to him.
Alright.
I'd probably say no, his run's not long enough. But still, he was a big star, sure, give it to him. Ultimate X for the X Division Championship. Christopher Daniels defeats AJ Styles and Samoa Joe to become champion once again. So Joe only goes to climb the cables once.
Good bit.
He looks tremendously uncomfortable. He does the thing where like his feet don't really leave the turnbuckle very much. Like, he's desperately trying to still use the turnbuckle to keep his base, and then the second he tries to go out, he just falls to the mat. And I'm not sure he was meant to, because I think they're setting up a spot where he was meant to fall on Styles, because Styles is like lying below him a little further out. So I think they were meant to do a spot where Joe climbed out a little, and then Daniels pulled him down onto Styles. But I think he fell before that, so...
So my favorite part of this match is how we are beginning like the formation of the Daniels Styles team, and they are adapting and learning that they are a good tag team by realizing that the only way they can keep this guy down is to work as a team against him. And that's some like good development between these two as we head into the era of them teaming.
Because like the story coming out of the last pay-per-view, and even like this month, even when Styles made the save for Daniels earlier in the month and said it's not for you, is like they're still not on the same page. But you're right, they do a really good job of like showing how they should be a good team together through wrestling. God forbid a story told through wrestling, as opposed to like doing like a big promo or something. It's just like, oh, they did a high-low on Joe, they did a double team muscle buster on Joe. Oh, look, they're actually really good together, aren't they? Huh?
Yeah.
It is a really nice and nuanced spot, or a way to develop that story, I guess. There's also a great spot where Joe goes for the Ole kick on the floor, and AJ comes fucking flying off the apron out of nowhere at the forearm. Ruled. Looked so good. Joe grabs a chair and smashes AJ off the cables with it. Daniels then kicks that chair into Joe's head, which gives him the window to grab the belt and win, as Styles and Daniels shake hands after the match, and Joe starts like tossing the ring steps at ringside.
It is a very good way to belt off Joe. And of course they're very quick, like, he didn't get pinned!
Yeah, it's like undefeated still. No pin. He's still good. The match was scheduled to last around 16 minutes total, but they cut a few minutes of planned spots due to leading to the finish due to a Samoa Joe eye injury. Joe scratched his cornea the night before and irritated it during the match when the sweat and body oil got in his eye during a dive outside of the ring onto both Styles and Daniels. Joe lost his equilibrium and was in pain, communicating such to Daniels at one point in the match, and therefore was unable to do some planned spots and had to go to the finish early. He might have also realized due to sweat on the cables and his weight, he might not have been able to execute some of the planned spots. There was some second guessing of whether it was smart to put Joe in that style match to begin with, since it doesn't play to his strengths, and instead put him in a position to look weak. It would be like putting Hulk Hogan in a ladder match, says one veteran headliner. Sources say Joe wasn't particularly comfortable with the format of the match, but saw it as a challenge. He acknowledged that Ultimate X is considered the signature match to climax a feud involving X Division wrestlers.
It's nice to have an Ultimate X that feels important.
Yeah, like for the most of the history of that stipulation, both before this and after this, it is just we are doing an Ultimate X so we can do an Ultimate X. We think it's cool to do an Ultimate X on the show, so we're doing an Ultimate X. As opposed to this, which is like the culmination of arguably over a year-long feud now, given the first Styles Daniels match was February 2005. So like this is like between the three of them the culmination of 13 months. So it makes sense for them to go into Ultimate X as a big feud-ending rivalry, as opposed to just throwing it out for no reason.
Yeah.
And like I disagree with the idea that it's like, oh, you put Joe in a position to look weak, because they told a story about it. It was the story of the match. You're getting worked by the story. Bunch of marks.